All right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the delays, but lo and behold, here we are finally back and ready to go on to 2000 atmospheres. As in the bottom left corner, it is going to be your blue Terran, BattleB.
The top right side, we have our Frenchman. It's the Red Zerg, Denver.
All right, so now we get to do what we're good at. So
The things, well, we were slightly less worse at, really. There's
yes.
hopefully there's looks like pretty standard stuff already happening here in the beginnings, kind of as you would expect in a best of 3, right? You don't have that many odds, you don't have that many chances. I would say you're just gonna play your regular game here, unless if you're crazy, right? Some people are. They like to live wild on the edge of life, and well, so far neither of these players are really doing that just yet. It's kind of scooting along with the regulars.
Yeah, both BattleB and Denver are players who, in what I've seen of them, just do play very standard. They're not really going to take unnecessary risks if they don't need to, and especially when you're this early into group stages, it makes total sense just to play it safe, to go for standard openings. You know, maybe we'll see this transition into a timing attack. I think both these players are very capable. I've seen, especially BattleB, pull off some really, really good timing attacks against some high-level players. So we'll have to see what the plans actually are in the long term, but it should be mostly standard for this best of 3. And of course, Denver, I don't expect anything crazy out of him. He is probably, as I said before, mostly favored in this matchup, you know, to take this and to kind of make his scoreline in the group stages that much better. So I think it would be even probably worse if he tried to do like a super aggressive build.
Yeah, exactly. You know, if that's what you practice, that's what you should stick to, truly. And, I mean, in these group stages, you're not going to have players incredibly prepared for you much more than they would be able to otherwise, you know, if that makes sense. It's not like a couple of weeks in between all these matches. You kind of just keep on playing.
Absolutely. And we are seeing it is going to be the fast or third CC coming out of BattleB. This is, especially on a map like 2000 Atmospheres, a build that just almost every Terran will go for. There's not really a reason not to, because you are still able to get into all the tech you need to defend against early attacks, especially if you are scouting out well enough with your Reaper and that first SCV. And it keeps you on fairly good on fairly even terms when it goes into the macro game. So it's nice just to see BattleB approaching this as, all right, it's 2000 Atmospheres. This is a map that's fairly easy to defend on. There's a lot of open ground, spaces for, you know, surrounds. It's a map that will just naturally lend itself towards the mid game. And so both players just early on embracing that. And as I said, you don't want to take any risks, you know? It'd be like being, you know, you're the NBA world champion and you're playing against some high school players. And so you decide, you know what? I'm going to play with one hand, even though it has like a massive prize pool. It's like, you don't need to do that.
That's true.
You can play normally and probably just, you know, feel a lot more confident in your chance to win.
Still do your thing. Yeah, and probably the audience is going to like you better because you're not dunking on some kid with one hand behind your back, you know? It's like, not that either of these players is really in that situation to even be able to attempt something like that, I would say. You know, you're going to need both your hands here. In competition as fierce as this, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're putting down.
Yeah.
You want to come at them with all you've got.
It'd be like you're playing up against Maru, and Maru, you know, proxy raxes you 3 times, except Maru would probably do that. So,
perhaps.
You know, maybe not the best example, but it's kind of that situation. Both these players, I do feel, are fairly evenly matched. Denver with more success, just in terms of, I think he's been playing at a higher level for longer. And BattleB has just kind of, I think, been recently really kind of hitting its stride and starting to really show some great games. But we do have the Cloaked Banshee on the way, and it's actually going to be a very, very early armory. So do you know what that means, Kozan?
Most likely those Banshees with the Hellions are gonna have something up their sleeves coming in here. I don't think we went for any medevac, so there won't be any healing power, but with that extra firepower from those Banshees, I assume he's going to bring them along with them here. Coming out a bit earlier with the Hellions, just poking in to see what he can get. Of course, any creep tumor would be very lovely to get at these times.
I'm not sure Denver kind of quite yet expects this to be a Hellbat timing attack. It's a very, very delayed one. And it's sad, but here we go. Hellions are just going to roll on up. The transform is going to come through, and there's a Spore Crawler ready for the Banshees. But no Banelings are out. It is just Lings and Queens, and these Hellbats are getting quite a bit of surface area here. I am liking the start of this for BattleB, but I think there's just, there just seems to be a little bit too much for Denver. And again, it's a delayed Hellbat attack. Already Hellbat attacks aren't the most, they're kind of coin flippy. So just also doing it with a third CC behind, you're not going to get a lot of damage done. And at least picks off a few queens, but that's about all that BattleB's gonna get. Actually, doesn't even get a queen. Only 23 Lings.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhat equal on that. Resources lost. I suppose you do have that third CC, but yeah, we'll see. He's not out of it yet, right? But it's definitely not helped him. Now, you will get some circlings here across the map as well, so that's pretty good. Some freebies here. I suppose Denver feeling like, I didn't really want these anyway. Just made them to defend against those Hellbats, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attack Hellions with them.
Just brought a drone along for the ride, as it did get roasted and toasted. Those Banelings not getting too much done, and that's one of those attacks where it's like, alright, yeah, you defended extremely well, and you didn't take a lot of damage, but still, you probably don't want to throw those units away, because it's not like Denver has an incredible lead off of this. Whereas, if BattleB had been going for a 2-base, Banshee, Hellbat kind of almost pseudo all-in, it would have been great. You'd be in a wonderful position, but no. BattleB is sitting at 72 workers. He's actually ahead of Denver right now in the worker count, and has his 1-1 on the way with good timing. Already has his second factory up with 5 barracks. BattleB is transitioning this super well and is preparing for this mid-game timing attack.
Yeah, Denver, let's see if he's ready for this once again. The army supply not looking all too favorable for him just quite yet. Oh, sorry, big Baneling run by right there. Does strike true. 11 SCVs running in. And do manage to get blown up. Looks like another Baneling attack is going to be mounted on that area there as well. Sets off the Widow Mines. Alright, still has more than enough queens here to push everything else backwards. 3 more Banelings landing a little bit there, but not too much damage this time.
And BattleB is going to continue the push. I really do like Denver, though. Just setting out these Baneling run-bys, trying to keep his opponent occupied, and even now, just breaking off a large group of Lings. These are going to be able to come along this right flank. If BattleB commits to this push, which he is doing, then Denver can counterattack, as that Widow Mine is expertly dodged. And really, so far, BattleB just not gaining any ground, but also making sure not to lose too much to the point that Denver can just counterattack and kill him.
Yeah, he definitely still has a good majority units here. Has to watch out to not let them all stack on top of each other, though. It's what the Banelings love, after all. The mines do manage to kind of clear off the edge of the Banelings there, and that allows the rest of the... Oh, Baneling landmine. No, the rest of the Marines to clear up those Zerglings right there. And things kind of still going back and forth between the two. Still waiting to see whether or not one of these players can get a definitive strike onto their opponent. Oh, more Banelings.
Oh, the bunker is holding strong, but all of the SCVs are going to go down. I mean, still BattleB sitting at a pretty healthy 57 SCVs. Even gets the CC down because Denver misplaced the Burrowed Ling. It's not bad for BattleB because he was at such a healthy worker count, but Denver is just being all over the map right now with these run-bys, with these counterattacks, just managing to dodge where the actual army is, take engagements when he has enough to defend, and then get on out. BattleB, good pickup, and even baits out a nice Widow Mine hit. feel like he's lost a little bit too much at this point because you have Hydralisks coming across the map, a whole lot of Banelings. I mean, Denver's sitting comfortably on 5 bases. And BattleB was never quite able to make, any of these attacks really work.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to see. Well, we do have some Widow Mines over here that did strike 10 workers down. But it's interesting. Oh, those Banelings. Oh, imagine. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted by these Baneling landmines. Oh, that is beautiful, gorgeous, instant GG. I will do that to a man. It definitely will.
Oh, that was very well played there by Denver. I mean, a pretty convincing hold. In a lot of situations, it felt like BattleB, his macro was definitely on par, and he was definitely putting himself into some pretty good situations. It's just, I think Denver just over time took better trades, and so BattleB was never quite able to find any damage with his push, even with 1-1, even with the Widow Mines. Denver was constantly just getting more damage than him with the counterattacks, and yeah. Eventually that Baneling Widow, or that Baneling landmine. Oh, that was.
All right, 1 second. Apparently there is something as well over here. Yeah.
There we go.
All right. I'm sorry, I'm being messaged like on 6 different places. Like my mind is exploding right now. I can't. Normally Rushy is doing all this stuff for me. I appreciate it ever so much more right now. All the stuff he does. He still kind of just communicates with me meanwhile as well. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. All right. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay.
Oxide.
Yes.
Oxide for map number 2 is going to be, again, a similar map to 2000 Atmospheres. Kozin, have you heard my my spiel about how 2000 Atmospheres and Oxide are pretty much just the same map?
Sorry, what? Again, I'm just messages flying left, right, and center.
Yeah. So I have a whole monologue pretty much about how 2000 Atmospheres and Oxide are pretty much the same map in base layout, but they are still played pretty differently, just because of a few small differences. I love talking about it. They're the same map. It's just a reskin. It's great. It's wonderful. But I do expect this game is going to be fairly similar, where I wouldn't be surprised if you just see BattleB again go for that early 3rd CC. I would like to, I personally would like to see more emphasis on tanks. I love, Widow Mines. I love seeing, players like Maru who are able to micro on multiple fronts, but I always feel like a few tanks to kind of just back up a lot of these pushes, especially on maps that have a lot of high ground, that have a lot of these terrain that you can take advantage of in order to kind of nestle them into, especially on a map like Oxide, can just elevate the push to the next level. So we'll see if BattleB mixes that in, or if he keeps going, or if it just does kind of a repeat of last game and says, you know what, I just think I can do it better.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Unfortunately, StarCraft 2 decided to crash as well. Just, a cherry on top of a day that is going extremely well for me.
It wouldn't be a proper day without everything just kind of wanting to break at once.
It's the world collapsing. It is. It's true. You know what? It's happening on all sectors, all around the world, in every facet of the way, and I feel it now more than ever. This is... Man.
How a StarCraft 2 stream made Kozan realize that the world is ending.
It's true. It's true. Right. Let me see here. Guess you guys are still kind of loading out, waiting for someone to disconnect. I wonder who that could be. Wonderful.
Who knows? I'm sure players are like, oh, what's this? Who died? Who disappeared? Yeah, we'll get back on in, hopefully, fairly soon. But while we're waiting, I guess we can talk about some other stuff. We talked a little bit earlier about kind of a few of the players that we expect to do well, looking at the brackets. One thing especially that I wanted to because I was still dealing with stuff at that time because, as we said, nothing can go well. One thing that's really interesting is, of course, the fact that looking at Group C, I kind of mentioned everyone but Clem is kind of on even footing for if they can, advance. Of course, some players are probably like, oh, these people will be doing better. But that's a group that we're going to be seeing later on in the day with some really exciting matches. Already you have Clem, Hellraiser, Marine Lord, and Spirit at 1-0. As for Group B, though, of course, we're seeing this matchup between Denver and BattleB. Denver, if he wins, goes up 2-0 in the group. Of course, there's still a lot more days of matches, but it's a great start to go up 2-0, this soon, especially in the group stage.
Yeah.
It looks like we will be remaking the lobby. I'm just going to have the meeting crashed. And then later on, we are going to be seeing Raynor versus Chris Steiner. We're actually both currently at 1-0, which I think might have been maybe a bit of a surprise, but Chris Steiner did go up against Strange in a PvP. It was 2 days ago on their first day of matches. So that's a chance for Chris Steiner, who I think has kind of been, again, kind of like BattleB. He's been in these, games. He's been in these, he's been in group stages before, but never has really had a really super solid performance.
Yeah. Yeah, he's always been around the block. You always see him in the tournaments, and he never quite manages to really knock it into the top 3. That type of stuff, right? That type of result just keeps eluding him, unfortunately. But, yeah, maybe here, kicking things off in the group stage with a victory, as you said, could be a good start for him, right? Maybe this time.
Are you back in game?
Yeah, I am. I'm waiting to see a lobby hosted up.
Okay, yeah.
I think you guys are still in the game, right? At least that's what it says to me.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, we are going to be remaking, so we can get you back on in here and nothing goes super wrong. But yeah, I am excited to see how Chris Steiner does. Of course, Raynor is going to be an opponent that, it's just, that's such a hard match. It's such a hard match. Even though Raynor did take a pretty long break, he came back for Azus Rog and still made it into the top 8. Still, played some crazy good games. You're like, okay, he's still Raynor. That didn't apparently affect him in any way. So I think people still expect Raynor to advance, probably out of, at least in first from this group.
Probably. Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm always excited. If we see an upset, I'm always down for upsets, or at least Chris Steiner getting a map would be awesome.
True.
But it might, as unlikely as it may be, because Raynor's ZVP is still pretty dang good.
His truly everything is pretty good. It's truly the case. All right. Fingers crossed.
We're ready. Fingers crossed. Everything should work.
StarCraft 2, don't let me down now. Like, it's one of those things that happens like once every 1,000 games, and it's like, of course, it's
of course now.
break me further, please. All right, moving on forwards. Oxide, bit of a smaller map rather than the 2,000 atmospheres. It's a lot of, it's a good map. It's a solid map. It's one of those maps that people just don't really veto, right? You never really see people veto Oxide. It's a nice mix. Doesn't feel too big, doesn't feel too small. A wild array of strategies can be utilized, right? We see people pushing quick. We see people doing the macro games, long macro games that happen on these maps as well. Because you do have the big split through the middle. It's pretty good.
Absolutely, as ladies and gentlemen, we are finally on to Oxide. All of the technical issues, at least they're happening at the start of the stream. You know what? That makes me feel so much better, because that just means that today can only get better from here. And we'll see if it starts with this game. He's in the bottom left-hand corner of Oxide, already up 1-0. It's your red Zerg. His name is Denver.
The top right side, a man that would like to get some points on his name as well. It's the blue Terran player, BattleB.
Alright, Oxide. It is the big macro map. You don't see many rushes on Oxide, unless you, of course, are Rogue when you are 4-0ing Maru in a GSL Grand Finals, and you just build roaches and move across the map, in which case you do see people be aggressive on this map. But usually the thought process is, again, much like 2000 atmospheres, there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of choke points that you can use, especially when you're defending, to make it really hard to push. Your first 3 bases are usually going to be pretty dang safe. There's not a lot of ways to really threaten them unless you just completely miss something when you're scouting. And so this is another map that tends to lend itself towards that mid-game where you start to see, you know, players microing on multiple fronts. And as we saw in game 1, that kind of seems to be where Denver is really stretching his wings, because he was just non-stop with the Baneling run-bys and counterattacks.
Yeah, he was, and he managed to hit him at the right timing as well, right? So, very important. Sometimes lesser Zergs, right, they will just try those Baneling attacks whenever they can, whenever they're like, alright, I guess I have some money, I can make some Banelings here, let's just roll for it. But very important to wait for those clear engages where you know that the army is a bit further removed. You have that entryway, and well, definitely that working out there for Denver, especially that first run-in. Was a nicely timed one where you aren't really ready for it, and it's hard to anticipate because there's other micro stuff going on, right?
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you are the Terran. And BattleB was hitting a very potent 1-1 timing attack. He didn't have all of his army directly with the push, but it was something where you look at that push and you say, well, BattleB is in a really good spot. His macro is in a really good position. He was at 72 workers on 3 bases. He was, you know, in a prime position if he got some damage done with that push to put himself ahead, and so he was definitely focusing a lot of attention on it.
Yeah.
While it's happening, Denver runs in with a counterattack. As soon as BattleB pulls his screen back there to deal with a Baneling run by, goes in, gets like great Widowmine drags, and just eliminates all the damage that would be done by them, and is able to crush the attacks. It was just, I mean, a very well played game by Denver. You can tell he was just very comfortable in this position. As we've kind of said, he's been playing at, I think, a higher level for longer than BattleB. And so you just kind of saw that in how he played out that game. He knew exactly what he needed to do.
For sure, for sure. And something that's kind of interesting to me is that we're seeing a similar play here from BattleB. Once again, with those Hellions in development, we see the Tech Lab bright green with the upgrading of the cloak coming in. Overlords once again scouted as well. That's something that happened the previous game as well. So yeah, it could be a game that is going to unfold in these first couple of minutes very similarly. Sometimes as the Terran, right, you just have this build, you think it can work very well. Maybe it didn't work that one time, but perhaps if we try it this time around, he won't be able to fly in with that Overlord, so I'll be able to hit it just at the right angle. We'll see, because he's definitely trying it again. Baneling Nest is going to be ready. Oh wait, we do have a big difference here with the stim pack being developed rather than any type of armory.
Yeah, this is, it's interesting because, as you said, the build at the surface from what Denver has seen looks very similar, and because of that, you know, you have the Spore Crawlers as safety going down, you have a Baneling Nest on the way, and so Denver is just going to produce a little bit more units just to make sure that he's safe if it is, you know, a 2-base Hellion attack like it looks, or a Hellbat attack like it kind of appeared to be. But instead, BattleB pulls out. He realizes that it's scouted. He says, actually, I don't think I can go for this. Starts up the stim, 2 more engineering bays immediately on that 3rd base. And so he'll be able to move around with these Cloak Banshees, but it's not going to be something where he feels like he absolutely needs to get damage done with them. It's, you know, it's going to be slightly behind probably, just because I imagine the original plan was probably to do something very similar, but just a bit earlier, because he didn't go for a fast 3cc.
Yeah, for sure. I like this a lot, actually, from him as well, because he only made the 6 Hellions here. It's not that much of a commitment, right? If you go above the 6, I feel like you might want to really get something done with this. But the 6 Hellions, it's a nice amount, right? You're safe against a good amount of Zerglings. If the Zerg makes enough Zerglings to actually take down the 6 Hellions, then, you know, that in its own is quite an investment. And could be a bit troublesome from the Zerg perspective in some cases, right? Because those are larvae that you want to have be drones, kind of, in a sense. But yeah, with this number, with the 2 benches there as well, you can do some prodding, you can do some poking here and there. We don't see that much damage being achieved, but it's able to sustain all these units at the same time and continue to gain value from them later down the line, hopefully.
Yeah, another big thing to note is that 1-1 timing for BattleB already halfway done, while Denver is only just going to be able to start his up fairly soon as his evolution chambers finish. But you have Denver hitting his macro strides. Currently sitting at 70 workers, adding on the 4th base and a macro hatch. He's going to be able to just start producing a large amount of Ling Bane. And so, unless, you know, BattleB really is able to at least push back the creep and keep Denver's unit count low with this early attack, it might start to get a bit worrisome, but this is going to be, I mean, pretty potent. That 1-1 is almost finished, but there are a lot of Banelings on the way, and they do have speed.
Let's see where they are. There's a couple of them over here trying to make a run-by happen. There are the Banshees as well. Okay, nice pull away there. Marines engaging the Queens. Doesn't seem like too much to worry about for Denver just yet. He's got his creep out far and nicely. Those Queens in a good position as well. And that's going to be a while before that siege tank manages to hop on over towards anywhere where it's actually threatening anything important.
Yeah, we see even another counterattack being sent out. Denver just knowing how aggressive he can be with them, but a Queen does get sniped off on the other end. A nice pick off and pulls back to the safety of the tank from BattleB, and even has the Hellions and Banshees at home. So this counterattack, I mean, these Banshees might not get a lot done, especially if the workers are pulled and then the Hellions are used. And this is just, BattleB is actually handling these counterattacks so much better than he did in the last game.
Yeah, it was a fresh mule that he just did drop down there, but at the same time, I believe him dropping down that mule was what allowed him to see that those Banelings were coming for his SCVs, so quite nice. So this is going to be a cleanup, though. That is more than enough Baneling to devastate this kind of fortress of solitude from the Terran right there on the high ground. Will require a bit more to reclaim that area right now.
And with that being said, you're seeing Denver now immediately just go into another round of drones. Wants to fully saturate that 4th base as his 5th has finally gone on up, sitting on a really healthy 6 hatcheries and, you know, trying to get into a good position. But now you have another push coming out from BattleB, who's actually ahead in the supply right now. Again, these counterattacks just not doing a lot of damage. It means that even though BattleB loses quite a bit with that attack getting cleaned up, he has more tanks. He has, I mean, Widow Mines and Hellbats with the Cloak Banshees as well. He can start to push this position, and it's going to be really hard for Denver to break it.
Looking pretty rough. Denver, there is a big spread out ball of Marines there, of course, but there's a good amount of creep also. Denver being very careful not to engage just quite yet, which I do appreciate, right? There's no real pressure for him to engage right at this moment. The siege tank's not shooting anything, drones are still mining, so he's going to wait for as much as possible so he can truly overwhelm this and lose as, well, the least amount of units as possible trying to clean this up. Just being a bit more overwhelming. Very well done. And BattleB's not done yet, though. So we'll be coming in again with more reinforcements. Only 2 Widow Mines, I believe, with this entire force, though. That could be a problem.
I mean, the nice thing is BattleB managed to get out a lot of his units, and actually these Queens are out in the open. Manages to snipe down 2 and burrow out his Widow Mines. Feels like right now Denver hasn't actually been taking two good trades. Every time it's looked like BattleB's about to lose a trade, he's pulled back, he's picked up all his units, even sniping off these morphing banelings. Denver not protecting them. The splits do end up saving a lot of the bio. It's just Hydralisk here, and they'll be able to push it back with the Queens, I mean, eventually, but still. BattleB's just trading out. He does he use that CC?
Yeah, he took out the planetary at the top, so that's really good, actually. Meanwhile, while that was all happening, keeping his own base alive, that is still floating. So that was, in fact, a really good moment for Denver, making it a 5 base versus a 3 base. As this is continuing onwards, Denver just kind of got to hold on now, right? He doesn't have to do the counterattack, particularly this moment. He's done the damage. Now he's just got to make sure he doesn't take damage himself. Clean this up and be in a really good position for finishing off this game right here. Once again, showing patience, showing restraint. Baneling's first wave rolling in. There come the Hydralisk. Get the Liberators, that's important.
It wasn't the best trade, but you still have Denver being able to reinforce this. Morlings on the way. Clears out the Liberators especially, so the Queens can now push forward. But still, I mean, a lot of the Banelings were cleared up, and you now see BattleB just pushing forward with his tanks. He's going to keep rallying this. There's a counterattack on the other side, and so BattleB is pretty much committed to trying to make this work. I don't quite know if it will. Denver just feels like he has too much, and finally, these counterattacks are just starting to hit.
Oh! Again, he strikes gold with that Baneling landmine. What